While Ramazan and his father were conversing, a rider arrived.
He was an envoy from the K clan, the newly established Ottoman state. He carried a leather scrolling bast with the Ottoman crest. Under the moonlight, the letter read, "Every step taken in the land of Rome is a resurrection for a kinsman in need. May Allah open your path. Our prayers are with you." The sword is drawn first from the tongue, then from the wrist. Signed, Orhan Ghazi, son of Osman, son of Ertuğrul.
That night, for the first time in his life, Ramazan slept thinking not of his fists, but of an order that would come through the pen. Once, his ancestors had fought alongside the K Bey, Suleiman Shah in Aleppo.
The Ks had become a state. This time, they were the ones sending aid.
Ayas was near, but the heart was on the verge of an even closer destiny. The crimson morning rose over the shores of Yumatorg with a sorrowful silence. In the Turkmen camp, only the roar of the waves and the creaking of tent poles could be heard. This silence was the harbinger of an approaching disaster.
Ramazan Bey stepped out in front of his marquee that morning and turned his eyes north, toward Ayas. The reconnaissance unit that had not returned from the night was still nowhere to be seen.
Kara Ayase had commanded the scout team. He was a companion who had ridden alongside Ramazan from Sejarah to Sis on every campaign, a brother in arms with whom he had swung swords for a long time.
The unrest gnawing at his insides soon turned into reality with a raven-winged messenger.
Not winged,
but a horseman covered in blood arrived, wounded, breathless. Before he fell, Kara Ayase said he would not return. "My bey," he said, falling to his knees. They set a trap to the east of the walls.
Torches were lit, but in different colors. It turns out the enemy was not just inside the walls, but outside as well. Ramazan leapt onto his horse.
He took Same Bey, Tufan Bey, 10 archers, and 2 standard bearers with him. At that moment, Had Brahim was in his tent with a high fever. He said nothing, but in that moment, even his silence was like a permission.
The ground was dry along the way, but Ramazan's soul was damp with tears. He wanted to see Kara Isa alive, but when they reached the shadow of the walls, a Turkmen bow was stuck in the ground, and beside it, Karaisa lay in a pool of blood.
Ramazan leaned down. Karaisa was still breathing. His eyes were half closed, but when he saw Ramazan, he smiled. "My bey, let this blood be a lawful sacrifice for the soil of Is. Do not speak, we will carry you," said Ramazan, but his voice was trembling. Karaisa whispered his final word, "The castle must be taken, let a banner remain behind us."
And his eyes, fixed on Ramazan's, closed.
Ramazan squeezed the bloody sand in his hand with rage. Was Ramazan to consign a friend, a part of himself, to the earth in his arms? The siege had not begun, but the war had long started. At that same moment, inside Is castle, Mardiros had climbed to the towers and was watching the headquarters with his spyglass.
Priest Kavok, coming up beside him, whispered softly, "It seems an important commander has died."
"But this is just the beginning, isn't it, sir?" Mardiros sighed. "He who wishes to take Is must first remove the arrow piercing his heart. Let us see who bleeds out first."
Immediately after Ramazan Bey treated Karaisa's wound, he looked at the shore where sandstorms were swirling.
Before him, Mardiros' elite units lined up at the base of the Is castle walls were becoming visible, their armor covered in mud, the symbol of the cross on their shields, their long spears swaying. Hearing Ramazan's voice, Same Bey lunged forward, raising his shield and holding his face in line with the castle. He was braving the incoming rain of arrows. Tufan Bey and Bey Tima came shoulder to shoulder at Ramazan's command. Behind them, 15 archers took aim at the soldiers emerging from the castle with their short Turkmen bows.
Sharp swords, spears, everything was ready for a small but deadly coastal skirmish.
There was a moment of silence.
The distant roar of the waves drowned out the thud of Mardiros drawing his sword from its sheath. Then the noise of the first steps rose from the sand. Ramazan Bey and their followers charged towards Mardiros soldiers. Arrows flew with a clatter. An arrow coming from behind to strike Ramazan's shoulder trembled against the shield of a female warrior. The woman who saved Ramazan's life was a member of a warrior group calling themselves the Basin Rum. Upon the female warrior's command, a shield wall was formed.
Archers firing from within the shield wall hit their marks, disrupting the enemy's composure. Ramazan gazed into the face of the female warrior and asked her name.
My name is Ayşegül, my Bey.
History books speak of wars and swords, but they generally forget the hearts behind the shields.
In the chaotic streets of Ayas, Ramazan Bey was seeking a victory.
But he found something far more dangerous, a love that could change the fate of a clan. Reinforcement forces, unwilling to leave their base alone, had arrived. Mardiros stuck his spear into the sand and gathered his commanders.
A white banner was raised ostentatiously. Ramazan's voice was heard piercing through the sands. Today, in front of these walls, neither Karaiser's blood nor our hero's sweat will be shed in vain. My Bey, these infidels are too numerous, said the female warrior. Bey, holding his shield high, closed Ramazan's right flank, protecting him from spear blows. The woman leaped 3 steps forward and took down the soldiers. Baitma, even with 2 arrows stuck in his shoulder, fought to the very end. In the middle of the clash, one of Mardiros' flanks pulled back. The sound of armor sliding against the sand signaled his retreat.
At that very moment, Ramazan raised his sword and, with a mighty roar, ordered all his troops to attack. That brief, blood-scented moment, Ramazan's army advanced at full speed over the sands, while Mardiros soldiers retreated. The iron gates of Ayas slammed shut with a deafening thud, barely missing the hooves of the pursuing Turkmen horses. Mardiros and his remaining men had escaped, but they were now prisoners in their own fortress.
Ramazan Bey pulled his reins, halting his troops just out of our range. The walls were high, formidable, and lined with archers. Brute force had won the beach, but he would not break these ancient stones.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the Mediterranean Sea in blood-red hues, the siege began.
Hundreds of campfires were lit around the castle, looking like a necklace of fire strangling the stone throat of Ayas.
Please like and subscribe.